This is the first look trailer. It's a minute and a half, and then we're going to show you the dev diary one, which dives a little bit more into the specifics. Here we go.
Sempiterna pace.
Νεύθης, δώσ' μου δύναμη.
See that forest ambush? Okay, so that's the first look trailer. Now we're gonna watch it again. I'm gonna do it with the sound off, and we're gonna go through and kind of break it down section by section. Right now, bear in mind they haven't really shown us too much yet. There is some old footage from about 11 months ago, almost a year ago, where there was someone from I don't know if it was Chinese or Korean, someone from another region that posted what seemed to be alpha test footage. But the footage was really, again, it's almost a year old, and the graphics obviously look a little bit better now for what they're showing compared to what they did then. So I'm going to wait until they come out with that. However, being able to choose civilizations at the start, again, this is very traditional kingdom builder-ish, right? Whether you've played Rock, you've played Call of Dragons, Infinity Kingdom, etc., this is something that kind of falls a little bit more in line with those. Okay, let's continue. So gathering rich resources. This is something I actually think is a little bit different. If you've played Age of Empires games before, you know that it's different than you capturing an RSS tile, right? I mean, it's more or less, I mean, think about it. Basically, the way they're coding it is they're just saying, hey, here's a point on the map, but the way that they're masking it, right? The cosmetics they put over it, that's all it is, right? It's cosmetic for this game could be an RSS tile. Cosmetic for Age of Empires could be a peach tree bush, right? Or a berry bush, or it could be a gold mine, right? But you're sending a unit over there, right? The only difference is that in Age of Empires, maybe you're not sending a legion or a march, but you're actually sending over individual workers. So that could be a different aspect to what Age of Empires brings to a kingdom builder game compared to what we traditionally see, right? Something like Whiteout Survival is probably a decent example of, like, you know, when you're sending individual units and allocating them to your buildings internally within your camp. It kind of is a bit more reminiscent of that. However, again, I personally, I mean, for someone who's played, I mean, I've played Age of Empires since Age of Empires 1, AoE 2, Age of Mythology, AoE 3. I haven't played AoE 4 yet, but this is something that cosmetically, I like the way that the gathering works if it's kind of focusing on more individuals compared to having to utilize an entire march. And if they do something like that, I'm actually somewhat for it because of the fact that I think the idea of leaving your marches free to do more PvP is an interesting concept if they almost removed that and they allowed for you to kind of send out internal gatherers from the city. Now, whether that's only in the city or if you're sending out individual gatherers out onto the map, I think it's a nice different approach where you're leaving your marches and your legions free to go out and actually do the fighting. Let's continue. All right, being able to gather nets. Building your empire, this is all pretty standard, right? This is basically just building out your base, right, of your kingdom. Rally historical heroes. And again, man, Age of Empires has some dope-looking heroes, too, as well. Like this one was interesting the way they showed this. Hang on, let's go back right there. Right, so here, this interface isn't actually that bad, right? When this, to me, I think cosmetically looks nice, right? You have a hero card. You have, what is it, cavalry. Cavalry looks like cav, maybe if that's infantry as well, or if that's a skill. Who knows what this is, right? Maybe this could indicate if, based on the stars are kind of max, right? It looks like maybe 5 stars max, level 50 is max, and maybe this is some other kind of attribute bonus. You could see here archer, maybe this is archer infantry, spearman infantry, cavalry, spearman main, right? You see a few others that are here. Not everyone kind of has this thing over here, but you could see swordsman, pikeman, cav, archers, right? It kind of gives you a little bit of information. You get what looks like if maybe you can have 3 here if these are not additional attributes. You get a power bonus, your load capacity, siege, and then maybe this is the max level, possibly. You get, looks like you have 4 loadouts that you could have here. So maybe that just means 4 legions. Maybe that goes down more too as well. And it looks like they have 3 heroes per, if that was a way. This is cool though, right? Unleashing powerful, hang on. I don't know if we missed that last animation there. Right, here you go. So unleashing powerful skills. This could either be a skill active or it could maybe be something that you're clicking, right? Kind of like an artifact usage. So the using distinct terrain, this is pretty cool, right? We show where you see the forest ambush that is coming. I wonder if they're going to have this kind of league approach where it will be where it's going to be more of, you can hide in the brush, right? And then you're invisible and then you come out of it. That could be a really cool concept. I think that's actually something that some players have asked for in Call of Dragons as well. Now, the way this looks almost kind of reminds me of like an EOC, an Era of Conquest, or like a LOTR Rise to War type of approach where you're, kind of sending it to tiles. Again, we can't see any tiles, but look at this, marshlands, reducing march speed. This is pretty cool, where you end up having them just not being able to move that fast across particular terrain. That's something that you don't see, they don't have that in Rock, they don't have that in Call of Dragons. That's a pretty cool thing. So this is nice. I like how they're giving you kind of on-field buffs or debuffs, right? Being able to explore the world. That's pretty cool if you could sail. Dynamic battlefields. So the one thing that I'm hoping doesn't happen is this doesn't turn into kind of like a Clash of Clans, like we're just going to raid your base type of thing where it's almost like a tower defense. I hope that's not how it is, and it's a little bit more intuitive than that. But you can even see here, right, you're attacking the gates, they're already on the inside. Is there kind of free movement when you take the wall? That's pretty cool. If you take the wall down, this is all very similar to again, it's a different way of playing. Right now you're coming in, you're destroying. Does the city operate? Like, this is the thing. If the city was kind of how it is in a typical tower defense, where it's very similar to a Clash of Clans, but the exception is that both of the players can respond in real time, and it's not just you set up your defense and then you let it play out when someone's getting attacked. Now, that could be a cool, different way of approaching the game, right? Where now, if, let's say your city gets hit, or they break down your walls, you can basically summon your army internally within your city, right? Because if you look at a Call of Dragon city, it's obviously not big enough to be able to sustain or to do that. But what if in Age of Empires, when you zoom into a city, it's almost as big as a battlefield, right? And that could be something that could be really cool if you could fight within your city to basically defend structures. And people could come in and destroy your buildings, right? And then maybe you have to build them back up. So if they get destroyed, maybe they lose a level. Maybe all the levels are lost and then you have to rebuild it. Like, just thinking about it like that is actually pretty cool because it is a different way to approach the game. In most kingdom builders, traditionally, you're not actually invading a city and destroying anything that's within them. Let alone invading the actual kingdom or city that you see on the map. Typically, you're fighting outside of it or you're rallying it from the outside, but you don't actually get to see any internal workings within the city. So this is actually pretty cool if you think about this. I don't know if it's necessarily a new concept, but it's new compared to, at least from my experience, on a lot of the kingdom builders I'm familiar with. So let's continue. Right now you're saying, hang on, I wanted to see that gauge bar. So you're seeing here, right, this is probably what I would imagine is the active skill bar. You could see that some are 2 or 3, if that is the case. I like how you get a snapshot of who the hero is. You get to see what their classification type is. You see their health bar. And then if this is kind of an action, or an AP gauge bar, and once it's full, then their active skill will be procced. If that's the case, I actually like kind of the visual aid here. And what I'm imagining this is maybe, okay, so this is cool. So look at this. Maybe what they did is they conquered a player city. If this is a player city and not just an objective, right? Because this could also just be like an objective stronghold, a neutral site that they have to go for. But if this is a player city, and you'll see that they conquered it, and then all the walls are being destroyed around it, right? And then what does that mean? Like, is it just, okay, all your walls are down, and then as the player, maybe you then get a city shield, and you have to rebuild from a weaker position, right? That could be something as well. But anyways, so that's that one. Let's go, and I want to look at, if we can, this is the dev. So I haven't watched this one yet. This is 4 minutes and 42 seconds. We'll play this in a second. I just want to see if there's any questions yet that I can go through. But I want to watch this because this is going to give us a little bit more insight into Age of Empires Mobile and maybe just hear a little bit of their philosophy behind it. Paulo, Age 2 was the best game ever. Dude, Age 2 is crazy. I didn't even realize that there was a high, heavy esports scene for Age of Empires 2. And until I started watching some highlight clips yesterday. And they were also showing off and talking about some of the Age of Empires esports scene during the live stream yesterday on the official Age of Empires YouTube. So that was really cool to see because I didn't know that it was that competitive at that point. I've seen some live streams, some tournaments, but I think the scope of how big the esports scene was very illuminating for me. Brugi Milan, what's up? You said, hey, question. You said, I'm currently part of a jumping group in Rise of Kingdoms. Where we expecting our kingdom to open up tomorrow, but suddenly the first thing in the monument dropped. From 20 to 60K. Does the new kingdom still open after that event is finished? So if you're asking if a new kingdom can open up after that event has finished in Rock, from when I was playing it could. I've also seen kingdoms that have opened up, I believe, before. I think that event was about 2 days, from what I recall. So I guess unless they've changed it, of course. But during my time in jumps, I've seen kingdoms open up before and after the first monument chapter has finished. Now, again, like I said, if that's changed recently, or maybe a little bit more beyond than recently, then possibly. But from what I understand, it could have. However, I'm not jumping currently, so I'm not really sure on the consistency of that, just because I'm not necessarily in the scene. But I would definitely ask someone who does jump often. Okay, here we go.
大家好，我是 Age of Empires Mobile 的制作人 Robin， 非常高兴我们的游戏在今天与大家首次见面。现在，我们的研发团队将为大家带来这款手游的最新信息。
Age of Empires Mobile 为 Age of Empires 系列带来了全新的体验。这是一款真实大战场战争策略手游，包含丰富的 RTS 元素、快节奏的战斗、趣味的王国建设、多人社交玩法以及多个文明的历史英雄。玩家需要建立自己的帝国，并加入联盟，以来自全世界的盟友一起驱逐入侵者，并且扩大联盟领土，最后向王城发起进攻。
Yeah, so I'll probably be playing and pausing it here, but I just want to point out I like the fact that they said, hey, the final building is the Imperial City, which again is very similar to a Lost Temple and Rise of Kingdoms. If you've played Infinity Kingdom, right, the final building after you do your Contention of Relics event. And then obviously what may end up happening in Call of Dragons, where we potentially see the Flame Dragon as being the final kingdom. So this is, again, kind of so far still on a traditional kind of kingdom builder track.
这款游戏由 World's End 与天美联合开发，我们与 World's End 拥有相同的愿景，希望通过 Age of Empires Mobile 这款游戏，让更多的用户体验到策略游戏的乐趣。天美的团队成员基本都是 Age of Empires 的多年粉丝，对 Age of Empires 的热爱也是许多团队成员投身策略游戏研发的原因之一。我自己在高中的时候，常常玩 Age of Empires 2到废寝忘食，一张地图能重复的玩6、7遍也不觉得腻。
我们团队从16年开始专注研发策略手游，希望利用天美在大地图设计、多人在线、社交功能方面的经验，融入对 Age of Empires 诚挚的热爱，与 World's Age 一起，将最顶级的策略游戏体验带到手机上，让 Age of Empires 的玩家 能够随时随地与更多朋友一起体验全新的 Age of Empires。
Age of Empires Mobile is a fresh take on the Age of Empires series. We've preserved the classic Age of Empires elements as much as possible, while introducing new gameplay and controls optimized for mobile devices. We hope to deliver that classic Age of Empires feeling in a brand new experience.
What sets our game apart is its large-scale epic stage battles, where hundreds of players clash on one screen. It's a dynamic and immersive combat experience that blends large-scale alliance strategies with individual maneuvers.
Age of Empires Mobile also caters to players.
Okay, so let me. Again, I don't want to call BS there, but let's call it what it is and be honest here, right? Them talking about saying a unique feature of their game compared to others is that you are offering large-scale combat with your alliances and unique option scenarios features isn't necessarily anything new. Now, again, that's just based on what we've seen so far. If they show more than that, or if more is shown later down the line, okay, that's different. But at the moment, most kingdom builders, some other people will view them as 4X games. I think SLS, if that's one, kind of MMORTS you might. But again, I just call them kingdom builders, right? I think it's a very simple term to understand what the genre is and the types of games that are being produced within this genre. So this type of large-scale fighting isn't anything new. It's actually very common within the genre. So just wanted to point that out. But like I said, if they show more that's more unique later on, right, then we'll obviously comment on that.
Who enjoy single-player adventures. You can build and expand your empire independently. You can build...
Okay, I wanted to talk about this for a sec, because they're saying that this is actually in-game footage. And so, again, this is a very similar screen to what you see. Now, there is a timer here, so this is probably an event. But again, if you're looking here at Governor, this is most likely a world chat that you're viewing right now. You could probably rotate this, which is actually pretty cool. This is pretty standard, right? But you should be able to rotate this between a world chat and alliance chat, and then potentially DMs, right? Would be nice. That it could be what this is indicating over here, unless maybe this is an event chat, and then maybe it goes over to a world chat, alliance chat. This obviously would be the icon where you could zoom out and look at the entire map. That's pretty understandable. I like this toggle here. If this is a zoom toggle, I'm actually kind of cool with that if you're able to move it. Now, obviously, that's different, or if they have that in addition or in conjunction with moving the mouse wheel, then that's something as well. You can see here that this is where your missions, again, this is very similar to traditional kingdom builders, having your power in your top left. Potentially, this icon is listing out buffs that you would have, if that's the case. You have a location, which maybe... Oh, this actually would be pretty cool. If this is a location icon where you click it and it maybe takes you back to where your home base is. Or if these are maybe city tags, maybe this also could be a specific event thing. This is interesting how they tell you, like, if it's sun. I actually like this. If this is at the UTC time in-game, but then it shows you, oh, hey, it's daytime, so maybe this indicates they're going to have a day and a nighttime mode in the game. Actually, that would be pretty dope. Not mad at that. This looks like a satchel or something for this particular event. Okay, let's continue.
Enjoy single-player adventures. You can build and expand your empire independently. Delve into diverse single-player adventures. You can build and expand...
Okay. Hang on. Let's not make sure we miss that.
You can build...
Here we go. Tap to assign more villagers to speed up building. Oh, never mind. Okay. Oh, okay. But this is interesting. So this actually almost feels like kind of a take on, Whiteout Survival, right? Where they're... Because you could assign people to specific buildings within your camp in that game, but this one is actually being done for building process. So that's actually pretty cool. I actually somewhat like that. Then you can see the limit here is 0 of 12, so maybe it shows you as this goes up, maybe that number will go. It does. Cool. Look at that.
Into diverse...
Hang on, I want to see. So build the second camp. So that's probably... And this shows you what your resources are at the top. Okay. Maybe this is a raid event or something that they have. Okay.
Delve into diverse single-player dungeons, and freely explore the vast world.
See, this is... I paused it here because I thought maybe this is like an artifact, or is this some kind of like a timed equip thing that you can skill out? But if this is auto and 1, this is most likely some kind of a raid. or maybe some kind of a dungeon environment, right, where you're kind of auto battling at this point, right? This is very similar to what you'd see like an expedition in Rock, or God, I'm even forgetting right, the Dragon Trail that you have in Call of Dragons, right, where you're kind of going through and doing those tiered PvE levels. So that could be something.
And freely explore the vast world map to gather resources.
Okay, let's pause here. I want to look at this interface. So very similar, right? But we're getting a little bit more information. So they have VIP levels. That's all very traditional. You could see the power, which looks like here. That's traditional. I don't know what this land thing is. Maybe this is how many, if this is like an RSS tile, which again, it actually looks like they have RSS tiles out here. I just don't know if that's going to be traditional. They have mobs, so you could see that, which is very similar to Darklings or to Barbarians if you played Rise of Kingdoms or Call of Dragons. So again, that's pretty standard. This maybe is like the buff window or the buff screen where you see this one says 7 days. Maybe if you click on this, it'll list it out top down, or maybe it lists it out left to right. Probably what we have is a taskbar over here, mail, hammer, which indicates buildings. This is probably, for this one, probably has you zoom out a bit, or maybe this takes you to like the global kingdom or server list. Search, this is most likely for searching for tiles, for mobs. Star could maybe be if you favorited anything. And let's go right. So these could be event tabs. Right, this is something that you'll also see in other kingdom builders where at the top here, sometimes they'll do it like this instead of just having. Now, I want to point out, I'm very much of a mindset where I don't like to see a lot of stuff on the screen, right? So this already feels like a bit too much for me. What I'd like to see games do with events is I like to see them just have an events tab. Like this is the thing I like that Call of Dragons does, at least to a degree, where you can, and Rock does this too, but they could do it better. Where instead of showing things across here, just show it. Now, yeah, if it's a limited event or something like that, maybe you can make the argument, but I still like everything being condensed into one area. So just have one icon up here, and then that will just show you all of the active ongoing events. It'll show you new seasonal events. It'll show you if there's any specials or limited time bundles that you can buy, and just condense it all into one area. I'm very much less is more on the screen. I just think that's a better way to do it. I do like this plus sign here, where instead of maybe having to click, instead of maybe having to click on a tile or something to send a unit out, maybe you click on this and the unit will just auto station outside of your city. If maybe that's something, but this is pretty cool. I like how that's just kind of a quick interface usage. And then you have your milestones here, which again maybe is just kind of like task rewards that you can get and complete. We have a satchel, which is probably where all your in-game resources go. This seems like this could be maybe an alliance flag. Maybe this is heroes. And then maybe this is ongoing rallies that is happening. Possibly. Okay. Let's get. I really want to see if I see any ranged PvP. That's really the thing that's gonna get your boy off.
Work on PvE encounters or engage in intense one-on-one PvP battles.
When designing civilizations, we conducted extensive research with Microsoft's team, including field trips and specialized discussions, to stay as true to history as possible. For example, the Roman civilization features stone structure. The Byzantine civilization is rich in mosaic decorations, and the Chinese civilization, with its abundant wood resources, excels in wooden architecture. All these factors influenced our choice of materials and art style when designing the architecture of different civilizations.
In addition to experiencing familiar civilizations in Age of Empires Mobile, you will also relive classic Age of Empires elements, including rich citadel resources, iconic siege weapons, and classic music and sound effects. Also, our games...
Okay, so that was pretty cool. Where if they have... did I just miss it? Okay, so they have like the trebuchet out here where you can do some range. So it looks like maybe they will have some level of range combat. Like I said, my worry here is when I see something like this, the first thing that comes to mind for me is that and I'm just saying, if this is a player city, like you can see here's the alliance name, but the thing I worry about is like, okay, is this going to be some kind of tower defense, Clash of Clans type thing? And if that's the case, as a kingdom builder, that's just a no bueno. You like, respectfully, that's not the way to do it. And that's more of a turn off than it is a turn on. And that's just because of the fact that Again, sure, is it a unique approach to it where you're kind of allowing for a lot of the kingdom builder elements, but you're then adding in this kind of tower defense like thing if you break the wall down for a player's city, and then you have like this kind of mini game? Sure. Okay, is that a different thing to do? It is. The reason why I don't like that for these styles of games is because the whole point of a kingdom builder, for those of you that have played many of them, is that, or for any of you that have played any games where you have kind of this free troop movement mechanic that's in the game, it's very hands-on, right? And that's what it is when you're fighting out in the open field, if you're doing rallies, if you have a free troop movement and you're able to kind of maneuver around the map, like let's say if you're using Cav and you're trying to like do resource tile hopping where you'll kind of go into a tile, exit real quick, go into a tile, exit real quick. Maybe you're trying to flank. Like a lot of this all really speaks to kind of more micro play, right? And that's something that, again, I hope, and again, this is just me, it's my opinion, but if they were to do something, and I mentioned this before, where you break the wall down for a city, and then you as the player can summon troops within your city to fight it out, that could be cool. Because I think that would stay in line with still having that real-time troop movement. But again, like we don't know if it is going to be a tower defense type thing internally, or if this is an actual city, or if this is just a neutral stronghold site. So we'll see.
Iconic siege weapons, and classic music and sound effects. Also, our games preserve the essence of Age of Empires. Aspects such as base building, freedom of movement during combat for strategic unit placement, and a wide variety of strategies.
Speaking of strategy, Age of Empires Mobile focuses more on pre-battle strategy compared to Age of Empires. Many well-known historical heroes will be fighting alongside you, carrying a diverse set of unique skills and tons of room for customization. You can then technically combine these heroes into battle teams, opening even more room for creative strategies.
So I've heard many players are curious about what kind of game Age of Empires Mobile is. It's a war strategy game with rich RTS gameplay specifically optimized for the mobile platform. We've simplified the input scheme to make it more intuitive for the new player.
Age of Empires Mobile is currently under active development. We're planning regional tests to continuously optimize the game, and we can't wait to introduce it to players worldwide.
Age of Empires Mobile is available for pre-registration on the App Store and Google Play right now. Also, check out our official website for pre-registration events and more information. Join our official communities for the latest updates on Age of Empires Mobile. We're looking forward to seeing you in the game.
Hey guys, Spirit of the Lie here. In this video,
Okay, we're back. All right, it's interesting stuff. What'd you guys think? Oh, then I have to read some chat too as well. All right. Yeah, let's see. And then we're going to go back to Call of Dragons. Just Killing, what's up? I have a feeling you haven't played Clash of Clans in a while and are misremembering it. Man, the way I've always remembered Clash of Clans is that you have an attacker that gets to set their attacking point first. Defense, or if you're building out your base, you build it in a strategic way. And again, if they have different modes now, if it's a competitive and a casual mode, but basically you would build your base out and set your defenses appropriately and customize your base's structure, and then people could basically attack and do raids on your base, and then they would place troops, whether they do it all at once or incrementally, and with the objective of advancing along your base to attack and destroy either as much as possible, or if they have to hit their certain points or destroy specific buildings in order to kind of get the wins. But that on the defensive end, you're not really able to use all of your units, right? It's more of like, for example, if you're on defense, you're not sending out all your units like you would on offense. right? You might have defensive structures, or if it's like a Tesla tower or an Archer tower or a crossbow placement, like something like that. Now, if it's changed to a point where you're now able to place all of, right, where defense is able, what I'm talking about is that the defensive side is able to have an active and real-time approach to it. Oh, sorry, let me read. Okay. Oh, you said, yeah, that's about right. You don't participate in defense actively. Yeah. And again, maybe, and that's how I've always understood. And that's really more of where I'm getting at, right? Is that based on what we saw here, like I said, we don't know enough yet. That's my point. But as I was saying, my hope is that it doesn't get to that. Like, my hope is that they don't look at that style of approach. And it's not to say that that's a bad style of approach. It works well for what Clash of Clans is and for how the game was built. But if you're going to try and implement something like that into a kingdom builder, where the emphasis on that is where both players, attacking and defending, are able to have more real-time active control, that is just something that I hope that's not being looked at. Potentially, right, for what they would do if they are breaking into a city, right, from some of that gameplay that we saw. 3 heroes in the user interface instead of 2 makes it seem like a lot more Raid Shadow Legends or something. Yeah, no. That was interesting to me that they ended up showing that, yeah, you have to acquire, and I don't know how I feel about that. If you have to, because I'll say this. If you have to have more heroes in a Legion or in a March, that is definitely not free-to-play friendly. Because what it means is that now your overall Legion and troop power is geared towards needing to level up and have more max legendary heroes. Eventually, we're talking kind of endgame point, right? When it gets to that, where now you have to invest in more heroes per each March. And if you have 4 to 5 marches, that's anywhere from 12 to 15 heroes that you need to have leveled, maxed out, with any other type of gear that they need to have attached. And then obviously with most games like this, you're going to have some heroes that are free to play, some that you're going to need to that are going to be paywall gated, right, for IAPs with your in-app purchases. So yeah, I think that's actually a really good point that hopefully, yeah, I hope, again, I'll say this, I'm very much just in favor. Like, I get why you have 2 heroes, 2 commanders, right, per March. Could they get away with just having 1 hero per March? Yeah, they could. I mean, any kingdom builder could relatively do that. And that game, I would say, would probably be a lot more free-to-play friendly than if you have to attach 2 to each, because then you only have to level up 5 heroes at that point, right, compared to having to do 2 or more, right? So that's something as well that, yeah, and obviously now you need to have 3, right? So now you need to have 3 heroes if that's the case. Ugh, yeah, that to me is a bit rough. Yeah, you said the way they showed the city battle kind of looked weird. Yeah, so zoomed in. No, agreed. I think, I think with it being a first look, I don't think they're really showing us off as much in-game footage for how it's going to look. I think you could tell that some of it was dappered up a bit, right? Where it almost seemed as though some of the footage, like when they were attacking the city, it almost kind of felt like it was like an ad, right? And maybe you might see some of that kind of in an ad footage. I think what we saw in one of the clips before where it looked like the unit was in that limited event or that event that was going on, I think that's probably a little bit more accurate for what you would probably see. But yeah, obviously we haven't seen enough gameplay footage yet to really determine. But, and I think the other thing too as well is, are they going to add on, I could take this off now. Are they going to add on, or are they going to have ranged play, right? Like, that's something that's really interesting to me, because I think Call of Dragons has really set the standard in that regard for how they're playing that out, or what they implemented in their game compared to what we see in others, right? If they're not going to have some kind of true range play, I think that could also be a bit of an I don't know. Like, one of the things I often talk about is that if they're not going to have, if kingdom builders that are coming out now are not going to have true range play, your game just needs to excel in so many other areas in order to balance out the fact that you don't have true ranged play in your game, right? And Call of Dragons is just pioneering that right now. So, if I'm another kingdom builder game and I'm looking at how to build, or if I'm a development company and I'm coming in and I'm looking at, hey, I'm interested in getting into this genre and I want to build a game out that's going to be within this field, I would look at a game like Call of Dragons, and I hope that they do. I hope they look at a lot of their games and they go through YouTube footage and look at battles, because the fact is that people want to have true range play, and I think, like I said, Call of Dragons is really setting that standard right now within the space, as far as doing it as competitively and as quality as they are. I'm just not a big fan of kind of the mosh pit fights where you have to fight legions and marches where everyone, like all the units are touching, right? Which to me, that just indicates more, it's like, oh, it's infantry versus infantry, or it's cav versus cav. But if you have ranged units, now the one thing that does gives me a little hope already is that, the one thing that gives me some hope though, is that they did have the trebuchet, right? Which was a ranged support unit that would be there to break down the walls, right? And you saw that firing from range. So that does give me a little hope, because that's in there. Yeah, you said range gameplay might be too difficult for some studios to pull off. Oh, I would imagine. But I think the fact is that, and I hope that development studios will look at hopefully they do. Hopefully they do their homework. And they look at a lot of different kingdom builders. They look at kind of what the pros and cons are of each, and like what do they do well versus what do they not have, or even if they just look at unique things that they have. And the fact is that, man, Call of Dragons is man. I mean, the range PvP play is absolutely fantastic. So, but yeah, I may keep up with this more. I'll be curious to see maybe how the